What's up, guys? Thanks for stopping by. Zach Hergert, Idea Addict, broadcasting across the fruited plain. Please like and follow me on Facebook, Zach Hergert, Idea Addict. I'd really appreciate it. I just felt like ripping a little weekend ep for you. It's Friday night. I had a fantastic day. Kind of feel like the first day of summer. It was nice, warm, blue skies, not raining for a change. And I had a good business day. I went on 2 different bids for 2 bathroom remodels. And bathroom remodels are really fun because they're simple, they're straightforward, they look really good in pictures after you're done. So that's exciting. And then in between those meetings, me and my wife showed a house that's $500,000 that hopefully the people are going to buy. They're interested in it. The house is pretty cool, backs to a private lake. So this was like a really good day. And I actually have had like a pretty good week. We just started on a new flip, and the best part about it is it's literally like a block away from where I live. So obviously I know the neighborhood. I can walk to work. If I forget something at home that I need, I can come down. If I feel like coming home for lunch or coming home to see our new baby, it's just super close. It's also close to like Home Depot and Lowe's and Menards and everything, so that's a plus. The other thing is it has a huge 2-car garage. So this last week it hailed, or it was going to hail 2 different days. So I was like, well, I don't want my new truck getting hailed on, so I just put it in that garage and then walked down here. And my wife was able to park in our garage because we have a 2-car garage, but it's always full of like leftover material from flips. We have 2 refrigerators in there. We have a range in there, and just tons of tools and furniture, staging furniture. So it's totally crazy. So it's nice to have basically like a 4-car garage now. So amazing. And the flip's been going really good. There's been 0 surprises. We thought we were going to have to replace our roof, and we only had to like do some patching. So that's really good. And the people that we bought it from, like, they did like a little bit of like a kind of like half-ass updating. They did these like one day shower tiling things where you pay this. There's a couple different companies in town that do it. You basically like pay these guys and they come in and they put up like a prefab like sheet of tile on the walls of your shower or whatever, and they're just total garbage. So those came out really easy. They just come out in one piece, so that's really good. But then along with them doing that, they also put in kind of like new bathroom vanities. And my wife, being the designer, didn't like them, which is fine. So we put them up for sale on Facebook. And one guy just came, bought it, really straightforward, $80. And then the next guy was, the vanity was $80 as well. And he came and he couldn't like decide. His wife sent him to come get it, and he was like, well, I don't know. Like, this is like kind of rough, I think that she'll probably be okay with it. And it was missing like a backsplash piece because the people before had glued the backsplash to the mirror with like an insane amount of glue. There was no way you could get it off, and I wasn't going to like chisel the damn thing off. So I was like, well, it's $80. Like, take it or leave it. There's other people who want it. And he was like asking me about the house, asking me about flipping, and he was like, well, I'm helping some of my clients like sell these commercial properties, like 3 commercial properties, like tax-free. And I like work with some other guys that do flipping, and they flip like a bunch of houses per year, and then they like intentionally like carry some off as losses and blah, blah, blah. So eventually I was like, oh, so, I didn't really care, I was like, yeah, I got like my own thing going on, but I was like, so what, do you like an attorney, or like, what do you like a financial advisor? Is like, yeah, like I'm a personal or a financial advisor. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, whatever. And I could tell like he wanted to like get in a conversation with me about like what I was doing, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of told him like, I like flip houses. I like do some like tax-free flipping. And he was like, oh yeah, he was trying to talk to me about that. And I was like, dude, I literally wrote the book on tax-free flipping. I have a book that I wrote, published about it. So no offense, but you're kind of barking up the wrong tree. And then the other thing is, like, he was a nice guy, like, whatever. I'm not trying to shit on the guy, but I don't want to like take financial advice from someone who's literally buying my garbage. Like, you're buying my trash from me. So I thought that was like kind of funny. It's like, okay, dude, like, here's your like secondhand vanity. Well, third hand at this point. Just, that's fine. Like, I'll help you carry it out. I don't like need any advice. And on top of that, the guy didn't like even negotiate with me. He just asked, he paid me what I was asking. So I thought that was like super funny. Now that I'm got a flip going on, like I've been listening to like a lot more like radio and like Spotify and like podcasts and stuff like that. And I have like a little like maybe like 3 or 4 like podcasts that I listen to on a regular basis, and they're kind of like all over the board. Some of them are entertainment. Some of them are like more like news, politics. Some of them are like comedy. And then some of them are like about like movies and stuff. And so I'm not going to name the podcast I was listening to, but I kind of had like, I was listening to one that I listened to like quite a bit. And the guys on are just like normal guys. And there was one episode, and they were like saying some stuff that was kind of weird, but I have like a problem with it now because I was listening to it. It's these 2 guys. They're probably like close to my age, you know, like middle-aged. And I had like a little bit of problem with one of the guys that was talking, like what he was saying on a podcast, like it disgusted me. And I just want to, if that guy's listening, which he should, I want to give him advice, and I want to give men everywhere advice. So I was listening to this podcast, and one of the hosts was talking about a reoccurring fantasy that he has about driving his truck out into like the woods, out into the mountains, and then just abandoning his truck and just walking out into nature and just like walking away from his life and just going out there and just living like a primitive lifestyle. Like, and he was like, well, the fantasy, this is kind of like this guy's philosophy. He was saying that everything in your life is just like window dressing, like bullshit. It's like not real. The meaning, well, he said like your life should just be about being alive and nothing else in your like life should matter. So like having a job and everything else is just like filler that we do. And it's all like an illusion. It's all fake. And he said that there's also, in his opinion, that there's no purpose to life. And I just thought that just like disgusted the living hell out of me. And here's a couple reasons why. And I think I turned the podcast off right there because the guy's a fucking loser. That's like a loser attitude, for starters. The guy has a wife and 2 kids. So he's basically saying like every day I think about just saying, fuck my wife and my 2 kids. I'm just going to like go out and like live in the woods in nature like a wild man. And I like have a problem with that because you're basically shitting on your family in a public forum. Anyone can listen to the podcast. What if your wife listened to it? What if your family members listen to you saying like, every day I think about abandoning this stuff because it's just an illusion? I mean, that's like a pretty crappy thing to do. The other thing is you're showing weakness to everybody that would ever listen to your podcast. So all those beliefs, I mean, that's just like a weak mentality. And saying that like, I mean, that's like a cry for help, basically. If you're saying like everything's an illusion, I think about abandoning it every day. There's no meaning to life. In my mind, that's like a huge cry for help. And it could actually be like a subconscious cry for help because he was saying it like, I guess with like an upbeat, like very matter of fact, where he's like, well, I mean, the only real reason that you should have to be alive is to like stay alive, is to like get your next meal. And it's like, hey, fuckface, people previously in history took care of all that shit for you to make your life better. Life and existence gets better the farther that you like go. So if you ever look at history, like I always talk about, like you need to like study history. I guess you have to need to study history so you're not a boneheaded fucking moron like this guy who's like, well, we should only be like thinking about where our next meal comes from. People like my ancestors figure that shit out for me so I don't have to worry about it. You know what I mean? So they just like drove me insane. And it's like your audience, like, dude, I'm listening to this podcast not for, like, I don't want to hear that. Like, I don't want to hear your, like, dystopian, like, nihilistic view of life. Like, it's an entertainment podcast. Like, I don't want to hear that. So it's, like, really disgusting. And the way it came off is, like, he wasn't even, like, really aware of, like, how disgusting that sounded. So I think that it was more of a subconscious thing. That reoccurring fantasy is basically his subconscious, like, sounding an alarm in his head, and he was too stupid to, like, figure out what that, like, daydream or that fantasy really meant. And I'll tell you, and him, if he's listening, that means that you, like, hate your life, and you need to, like, change something in your life. Maybe it's, like, too routine, you're doing a job you don't like, maybe you live somewhere you don't like. You just, like, need to make a change. You don't need to fucking walk off and abandon everyone who, like, relies on you. That's horrible. And you sound like a pussy and a loser. So you just need to, like, make some like, major changes in your life that aren't abandoning your family. So I think that we all need to be, like, you need to be really, really cognizant of, like, where your subconscious goes. And obviously this guy's subconscious goes to this, like, daydream. Well, we always have things when you're, like, not being, like, mindful of what you're, like, thinking about. Your subconscious is going to, like, basically determine, like, what you're thinking about. And that's something that, like, if you want to be successful, or even if you just want a life that you don't hate, you need to pay attention to your subconscious, because your subconscious is really what determines, like, your life. So, like, subconsciously, everything you do, like, day to day is, like, basically your subconscious. So, like, any routine that you have, you know, like, let's say you get up at a certain time, you, like, take a shower, you do things in a certain order, all that stuff is, like, subconscious. But if you're not careful, like, your subconscious, like, gets lazy and you just do things that feel good, and it doesn't necessarily, like, improve your life. So that's my little rant about, first of all, not showing your weakness to the outside world. And then second of all, minding your subconscious and really being, like, cognizant of, like, what you're thinking about. So anyway, that just, like, I don't know, that just, like, really bothered me. It bothered me as a listener, and it also, like, bothered me because it made me feel bad for the guy. So the whole thing was just disgusting. It just turned me off. So anyway, you don't be that guy. Be different. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, like, I think that being different is, like, one of the most important things that, like, you should do. And, you know, pretty much my whole life, I've always, like, thought differently than other people. And just instinctively, like, I've gone kind of, like, against the grain in a lot of ways. You know, like, for a long time, like, I just went with the flow. You know, I played sports in high school. I, like, studied hard. I thought I wanted to, like, go to, like, college to get, like, a good job. And then in college, you know, I went to college. I, like, played the game and all that. And then, like, I got in trouble, and then I kind of, like, woke up, and I was like, well, I don't like to do the same thing that a lot of other people do. And maybe that's why I had to use, like, alcohol to, like, I don't want to say, like, dumb myself down, but, like, kind of, like, numb myself to what was, like, going on, so I could kind of, like, go with the crowd. Because, you know, when you're, like, young, you like, want, like, peer pressure, like, you want to be a part of things. So I didn't want to be like, fuck that, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? So I've always kind of been different, and then probably, like, within the last 10 or 12 years, I really, like, started embracing it after I got in trouble, like, because my life was basically, like, in shambles, and I needed to, like, rebuild it. And I was like, I'm not going to do what I'd been doing. I'm going to, like, totally change. So I embraced being different. And if you look, a lot of the most successful and happiest people are different, and they do things different. And I think that it's really important, if you want to be successful, if you want to start a successful business, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, or just even, like, a happy, successful person, you have to be different, and you have to, like, go to the beat of your own drum, I guess, in a lot of ways. And I think you have to act different, and I think you just have to do things differently. So, I mean, just think about, like, and I always say, like, you know, I feel like from the time we go to kindergarten all through school, like, you're basically, like, conditioned to be the same as everyone else, and, like, act the same, and, you're going to school to like get an education and get like a high paying job and blah, blah, blah. And like all this thing, you're like, they want you to be like lockstep, and there's like a lot of reasons for that. One is like, it keeps the kids like under control. If everyone has the same goal and there's no opposing goals like going on in the classroom, the teacher can like control what's happening. So that's kind of like ingrained in you throughout school, and then if you get like a corporate job or like a normal job, 9-to-5 office job, it's kind of the same, they set up like the path to happiness, I guess, at the company and like social norms and all that. Well, not so much social norms, but like the path to happiness and like you get into the game and all that. So it's like if everyone is like shooting for a high paying job, I mean, just think about it. So if you have 200,000 people and they all want to be like a mid, and let's say you have 200,000 people and they all want to be the number like 10 person at Facebook who makes like $2 million a year. There's only one position for all those people that want to do that. So it's just not going to work out if you think about it rationally. So if everyone wants to get like a cushy corporate job, high paying corporate job, or like here's kind of like when I was in college, it seemed like everyone wanted to go to law school, right? So like everyone was studying for like the LSAT, and I was like, well, like I would like really like to be a lawyer. I think that would be like a good fit for me. That's what I thought back then. Now it's like, I'm happy I didn't become a lawyer. That'd be a fucking terrible fit for me because you have to like dress reasonably every day. I go to work every day in sweatpants. Well, now it's summer, so I wear cutoff sweatpants and a t-shirt. You can't wear cutoff sweatpants and a t-shirt as a lawyer. So that would have like not worked for me at all, but I was kind of like going with the crowd. And I was studying to take the LSAT. And I took I think a Kaplan class or something like that, where like a whole bunch of like people were in there like studying for the LSAT. And the economy was bad. And I was reading all this stuff about how like lawyers, they're just basically like turning out lawyers because there's so many law schools. And there's all these different tiers of law schools. And I was like, well, my practice LSATs, I'm not going to be going to like Michigan or UCLA or like any like top tier like law school. So like, what am I doing here? It's just not like a good fit. And there's like a saturation of lawyers. That's why when you drive through big cities, there's like tons of humongous billboards that are like referral sites for law firms, or just like tons of billboards of like different lawyers. And it's like at that time there was just like too much of a saturation. So, if everyone's shooting at the same target, it's good to be different, like aim at another target that other people aren't looking at. So I think it's good to be different when you're looking for a career or job. I also think it's good to be different when you're thinking about like investing. So lots of people invest in the stock market because they don't know any better, or most of the time they don't know any better, or like they have a 401k, so their employer matches it, and they have a limited options of where they can invest their money. And then also like the best way to invest in the stock market is that you buy low and sell high. But if you think about it, everyone has this herd mentality. And when the stock market is going really good, like it was like a year ago, everyone like wants to put their money in it. So they're buying high. And then when something happens like the coronavirus or like a financial crisis, everyone freaks out and they pull their money out. So even though the correct way to do is to buy low and sell high, everyone basically does the exact opposite. And that's the herd mentality I'm talking about. So I'm not talking about like you have to be a total freak and do things totally differently. I'm just saying like if you act a little bit differently, shoot at a different target or do the opposite of the herd, it's going to improve your lot. And today's idea is pretty simple. I mean, it's a real simple, straightforward idea. And I got to say, like, before I was into real estate, I didn't even like know this existed. I actually thought that this was illegal. Isn't that ridiculous? Like, I thought that this idea was completely illegal. I didn't think you can even do this on your own. But it's not, by the way. And if you do this, you can make a lot of money. And what it is it's private lending. So when I'm talking about private lending, I'm going to be talking specifically about real estate because that's what I know and I'm familiar with and that I do. I know there's also like private lending, like private payday loans. I kind of touched on that a couple episodes ago, or like private like funding for cars, like if you have a car dealership. But for this idea, I'm just talking about like doing private lending for real estate. And, I work with private lenders all the time. I've done some private lending. So I flip houses. And like I said, a couple episodes ago, like I don't invest any of my own money. So I use private lenders to flip houses, to buy the houses, to fund the rehabs. Like I'm already like managing all the guys working on it and doing some of the work myself and making sure that I'm getting a good deal when I buy it, making sure that all my subcontractors and construction things go off without a hitch. And then I sell the place. So I'm taking on all the risk by signing the loan documents. And I'm also like doing all the work. So I'm not going to invest my own money. That doesn't make any sense to me. I'll invest other people's money and spread the risk out between me and them. And it's like a win-win situation. So like I flip a house, I make a lot of money, and my investors make a lot of money. And anyone can really like do this on either side. So anyone with extra money to loan money can do this, and anyone who wants to borrow money, like someone like myself, can use private loans to purchase real estate. And you can loan money to do, you can lend money to do like all kinds of different real estate transactions. So some people will lend money to, like, let's say, well, here's one scenario that I know people do this. So let's say you have somebody, and for example, like my plumber, he has been a plumber for like 15 years, and he's in the plumbing union. And 13 years ago, so for the first 13 years of his career, he was a union plumber for like a big plumbing company in town. And then like a year and a half ago, he took over his dad's one-man union plumbing like contracting firm. So he went from being like an employee of a big plumbing company to like a owner of his own like plumbing practice in the union. So he's been a plumber for 15 years, and he was taking over his dad's business. Well, his dad's been in business as just a solo plumbing firm for like 30 years. And he wanted to buy a house. Well, the problem was they were like, well, you've only like had this job as a plumber for a year and a half, which, yeah, like that's true. He only has like receipts from like owning his own like plumbing firm for a year and a half, like out on his own. But he's been a plumber for 15 years. He's taken over his dad's firm, which is like been in business for 30 years. He already has customers, already has work. But because of underwriting like guidelines at a bank, they couldn't loan him, use a conventional loan or FHA loan to like loan him money to buy a house. So that's like pretty ridiculous because he's not going out of business. He has like disability insurance through the union. So if he fell off a ladder and like broke both his legs and he couldn't work for like 6 months, he would still be getting paid. But they like denied him a loan because they're like, well, you haven't been in business long enough. So that's like a little ridiculous because he wanted to buy a house. So he like came to us and like asked us, and we're like, well, like we know like private lenders, they can just loan you the money for like 2 years or however long you need to be able to refinance them out to get a bank loan. So let's say like, just for simple math, the house that he needed was like $200,000. He needed to put 5% down to the private lenders. So that's $10,000. And then they loaned him, yeah, that's right. They loaned him like $190,000, and the interest rate that they charge is higher, obviously, because it's a private loan and it's more risk for them, right? So they loaned him $190,000 on a 30-year amortization schedule, but it is only like a 2-year loan and then like a balloon payment after 2 years. So he just has the loan with the private lender for like 6 months or a year. And then he goes back to the bank and says, all right, I've been in business for 2 years. They write him a loan, like an FHA or a conventional loan. And then they refinance the house and then get rid of the private lender. So like in the meantime, the private lender is getting like between 6 and 8% for Basically, I guess I would call it kind of like a bridge loan. The way I use private lenders is I use them on a flip, and I use them for like purchasing, and also for like doing the repairs. And it can be like a variety of different like interest rates I'll pay the private lenders depending on the amount of risk that they're exposed to. So let's say like I need to buy something that's like pretty expensive and I have to get multiple lenders involved. So let's say I buy something that's like $500,000 and my pool of lenders, let's say they only have $250,000 each, and I need $500,000 to buy the house, and I need another $100,000 to like do the repairs. So because no one is going to have like a clear like first position as far as like no one's going to be lending me all the money. So I'm going to pay them like a little bit higher like interest rate because there's going to be like basically like 3 liens on the property. So if I really shit the bed and like something happens or I can't complete it, or like the market like totally bottoms out, and they had to like take it away from me, like they would just get like a 1/3 share between the 3 of them. So I might pay them a little bit like higher interest rate on that. So I typically pay my lenders, depending on the risk, 6% to 15%. And a typical deal for me, like if I'm flipping houses, is 12% 2-year balloon loan. So what that means is if I borrow $200,000 from you after 2 years, so I'll get the money. I don't have to make any payments to you until like the end of the 2 years. At the end of 2 years, if I take it out for 12%, like at the end of 2 years, I would be paying you, if I had $200,000, like close to $50,000, I guess. Well, no, let's say let's just do easy math. So if I borrowed $100,000 from you, it would be a 2-year loan. And at the end of the loan, I would owe you $24,000 because it'd be $12,000 each year. So after 2 years, it'd be $24,000. Or a lot of times what I do is I'll say like, I'll take this loan out just for like the length of the project. So at the end of the project, I'll just pay you back all of the interest in like a balloon payment when I sell the property. So if it's like 6 months, I take it $100,000 from you at 12%, I would pay you $6,000. Sorry, that got a little confusing. My bad. So that's like a typical like flip deal for me. So like if you're like a investor, a private lender for me, like those are like pretty good returns, right? And the only real risk that you have is if I completely fuck up, if I make a bad deal, or the market drops out, or my construction costs run so far over that I'm like upside down at the end of it. But like, let's say you find somebody like me who's been doing this for a long time and knows what they're doing and has a good track record and has never lost their investors any money. I've paid my investors every cent of like interest that I owe them, because I know if I fuck up and my lenders don't get the money back, that they're never going to lend me money again. So I'll pay my investors back before I pay myself. Because without investors, without lenders, like I'd basically be screwed. I'd be investing my own money, which I don't want to do. So let's say you're like, yeah, I have some money and like, I want to do this. How do I get involved in this? So, if you want to get involved, you can contact me. Or what you can do is you can go to like a local real estate like meetup or a local real estate like investors club. They're in like every like major city or even like medium-sized cities, especially right now too, because real estate is like still like pretty sexy. And kind of the scenario I talked about, like 6 to 15% like returns, like those are like pretty standard. So you want to just basically go to like a real estate meetup or real estate investors meeting and just like start networking, and you'll get like an idea of who the people are who do flips, who do rentals, the people who know what's going on, the people who don't know what's going on. So you kind of just have to like do your best to like vet these people and kind of like get to know them, get to like know their track record. And a lot of times like in these groups, there's also going to be people there who are just like there to like do private lending. And a lot of these guys are going to be people who have like a lot of rentals, and they a lot of times like have like done flips in the past, but they're like just too old, not too old, but like they've done it. They don't really want to do it anymore. It's just easier for them to loan out money. And these are good people to like partner up with, because you could maybe like partner up with them. Like say like they have $400,000 to loan out and you only have like 25. You could basically like pool your money in with somebody like that, and like share in the returns that way to kind of get your feet wet. And so people like use private funding for flips. They use it on like bridge purchases, like I talked about. And then a lot of people just use them for like just regularly like buying rentals. So the way that would work is like, let's say like I wanted to buy a rental. And what I want to do with my rental is I want to like buy something really cheap, and then I want to like rehab it and then bring the value up high enough to be able to get a regular bank loan on it. But in order to get like a regular bank loan on a rental, a lot of times like, and to do this like a refinance, I'm going to need to have like a renter in there for a specific period of time. And that period of time is called like a seasoning period. So a lot of times it's like 6 months. So like, let's say in this scenario, I need like $100,000. And what I'm going to do with the $100,000, I'm going to purchase the property and I'm going to fix it up. But the property after I fix it up is going to be worth like $150. And I'm going to be able to get like $1,500, or let's say I'm going to be able to get $1,500 of rent out of it after I rehab it. But I don't have the money. I need a private lender, and a bank isn't going to lend me the money to purchase it and like fix it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow the $100,000 from a private lender, fix the place up, put a renter in there for 6 months, and then at the end of the 6 months, then I'll be able to go get like a regular bank loan, and that'll refinance out the private lender. So there's a lot of different scenarios where you use private lending in real estate. And I think that's a really good avenue because you can get like really high returns, right? I mean, a 15% return for a year, like you're not ever really going to get that in the stock market unless you're like someone who knows tons about the stock market, right? Or if you're following it every day, or if you're in that industry. So that's the idea of the day. It's pretty straightforward, but it's like really powerful. It's a really good, I really like that one a lot. I think that's an easy way to make money. And, I know people who do that and they make a lot of money. So moving along to the business for sale that I like. And I really like this one because I'm familiar with this kind of stuff. And what it is it's a pre-engineered steel building and drywall contractor in Texas. And I don't think it says where exactly it is in Texas. It says located in West Texas. This company is a general contractor specializing in providing pre-engineered steel buildings, commercial drywall, and acoustic ceiling installations for hospitals, government agencies, universities, and schools. So it's a pretty interesting. They want $1.5 million for it, but here's the kicker: this thing cash flows $755,000 a year, and it does a gross revenue of $6.8 million. Those are real good numbers. The other thing is pre-engineered steel buildings, like putting those up, assembling them and everything like that, and getting permits for those. That's like pretty straightforward. So a lot of times like a pre-engineered steel building, that's going to be for like maybe like a small business, maybe like on someone's land that has a farm or like a cattle ranch or something like that. The other thing is drywall. That's like a pretty straightforward business. I guess for me, this is straightforward because I'm like familiar with this kind of stuff. I'm familiar with construction. It's also good that it's like in commercial, because if you like land a job, like putting in drywalling a hospital or putting in acoustic ceiling tiles at a hospital, that can go on for like a long time. So if you land a couple of those, like you're set for a while. Also like doing work at universities and schools and stuff, like that's pretty solid because those are like big contracts that go on for a while. The other amazing thing about this business, it was established in 1951. So it's been going on 67 years. So if you've been going on that long, you obviously have a good reputation. They work with a whole bunch of like a wide variety of different, do a wide variety of jobs. Like I said, they do large jobs, hospitals, governments. They also do, it looks like new construction, housing, and stuff like that. So that's like pretty impressive. I really like that. I think that like drywall businesses are like pretty good. A lot of people like don't want to touch drywall for whatever reason. But like I know a guy in town here. He has they have like a little family owned like drywall business. They do $300,000 gross income a month in Omaha, Nebraska, doing drywall. That's like a lot of money a year. Even if you're only making 10%, that's like $30,000 a month. That's good. So all their inventory is also included in the asking price. That's good. It doesn't really go into specifics, but I'm guessing like you're going to be buying a lot of drywall. They have 13 employees. The other thing that's great is they're open to doing seller financing, which that's a plus, thumbs up. The other thing is support and training. The owner will be available for a transition and a management team is in place and the employees will stay on after the sale. So like a management team, like somebody running the day to day, I mean, that's like totally amazing because if you can have someone that's been there for like a long time, this thing's been around for 67 years. What if the manager that's managing it has like been doing it for 10 years and you just have to make sure that he doesn't fuck anything up? I mean, that's like the ideal thing. So I'm like really surprised. I don't know the sites I look at to find these businesses for sale. I don't know how long. It doesn't say how long they've been listed for obvious reasons because most businesses don't sell. So like I'm sure there's businesses that I've seen on here for like years and years that won't sell. I don't know how long this one has been on the market, but the numbers look good from here. I don't live in Texas, but this is compelling. I mean, if it cash flows half of what they're asking for it. And like businesses like this are great because like a pre-engineered steel buildings and drywall contractor, that's not like super sexy. There isn't like people lining up to like open drywall businesses or like metal building businesses, but like obviously there's money in it. So if you'd like more information about the specific listing, it is listed by IAG, the buyer's division of IAG, and they can be reached at 888-567-3523. Or if you would like additional information, you can always contact me. I'll put my contact info in the show notes as always. So moving along, we're going to go into our help section. And the help section is where I talk about a specific person that's reached out to me, kind of give you a little background on them. And then they're basically saying, help, what do I do with my life? And this one's a little bit different than the last one we did because this one's just someone starting out, someone fresh. And remember, I changed the names to protect the innocent. So this kid we're going to call Dustin Jackson. He's 18 years old, so he's graduating high school this upcoming year. He likes to play football, plays baseball, enjoys socializing as one wants to do at that age. Not really sure what he wants to do with life. Doesn't really know, so that's what he's asking. He's had a summer job the last 2 summers as a construction laborer for a concrete business. Not wild about that. Doesn't really like concrete. I get it. It's a hot job. A hot job, we have to do a lot of heavy lifting. So I understand. So he likes to play sports. That's fine. Doesn't know what he wants to do. Can't decide if he wants to go to college. He's taking the ACT, SAT, or whatever. Can get into college. Not sure he wants to go. Doesn't really have like a feel for things. So I would say the first thing you have to do, you obviously know you don't want to like be a concrete finisher. You don't want to do like flat concrete work. That's fine. Not a lot of people do. I sure as hell don't. But what I would do is I would just like go get like some job. Just go get like some job, get like a little bit of like work experience. And then what I would do is with the money you're getting from that job, like I think he's living at home like every 18-year-old or 19-year-old. Seems like kids live at home until they're like 30 now. I lived at home until I was 27, so I can't say, not until I was 27. I lived at home for a while after I got out of college. I just like went on a rant at the beginning of this about not showing weakness and not being a bitch, and I just told everyone that I lived at home for a number of years after college. Really sad. So we'll fix it in post. So what I would do is I would just go like get some job that you can get with like a high school diploma and just like get a feeling for like what you like and you don't like. I mean, you can go get a job, work at it for like a month or two and then quit and go to a different job. And then what I would also do is I would just like go to a community college. Like you could just do it part-time in the evenings and just like start knocking down some classes that you know that are like going to be prerequisites for like anything that you could possibly want to do. So in college, they like make you take all these idiotic classes like English 101. If I made it to college, I know how to fucking speak English and I know how to read and write. But you're going to have to like jump through those hoops to get any college degree or like any degree like an associate's degree. So I would start like kind of like going down the route of like, what do I like to do? What do I not like to do? Because like if you've only had one job as a construction laborer, like you're not going to really like know that much as far as like what you excel at and what you don't excel at. I like socializing, so maybe like go out and get like a sales job. So like if you like talking to people, you're a people person, maybe like a sales job would suit you. You don't need a college degree to get a sales job. If you can talk, you can communicate, and you can convince somebody of something, that's great for a salesman. And then also like having a sales job like helps you become a better salesman because you're going to get a lot of up to bats. They're going to like teach you. If you go somewhere good, they're going to coach you. So like I would just like play around with some like jobs while I take night school, because you can take like part-time night school classes. Like here in Omaha, there's a community college, super cheap to take those classes. They transfer to like every major university in Nebraska, and I think a lot in Iowa and Kansas. So like maybe you'll get like a feeling for like what you want to do like while you're working these jobs. And because you're going to have a job, you're going to be able to like pay for these night school classes you're taking. So you're not just going to be like spending money at a university, racking up all the student debt. You're kind of going to get like the best of both worlds. So you're going to be able to get some exposure in the workplace and like start knocking some classes down. So that would be my advice, is to find out what exactly you do and don't want to do while you're knocking out some prerequisites. So Dustin, go that route, see how it suits you. If you're like, I definitely want to be a chemist or something like that, then like go to a university. So that's my help section. And I really wish I like would have done that out of high school, because like I feel like coming out of high school, like I already like knew how to make money, and then I went to like college and I was just like on like a 5-year like fuck off plan. So Dustin, try that out, see how you like it. You're 18, you have a lot of life ahead of you, so there's no reason to rush. Like you can go to fucking college when you're 25 if you want to. So try to get a lot of the like time-consuming, money-consuming bullshit out of the way before you go start taking on loads of debt. So the next, I'm moving right along to my 3 critiques, and I got some rants mixed in here. The first one is, I know a girl, she is a nurse, but she wants to do some kind of little side hustle. And she wants to, I don't know exactly which one, but she wants to get into multi-level marketing, maybe like selling makeup. And I know people like have a lot of likes or dislikes about like multi-level marketing. But let me like lay it out this way. So this girl has only ever like been a nurse. She's never like done anything entrepreneurial. She's never like done anything like being self-employed or like setting her own schedule or like doing sales or anything like that. So I actually think that multi-level marketing is like a good thing for her. And here's why. In multi-level marketing, they're going to like coach you and like help you and like teach you. And they're going to give you like some basic scripts and some like basic ideas. And the ones she's looking at are like, they're not like anything like totally crazy. You know, they're like pretty like standard, like Rodan and Field, or like I think like Mary Kay is one of them. So like pretty like standard, like reputable stuff, nothing too crazy. I think that's like really good for someone who like wants to like dip their toe into being an entrepreneur. Because guess what? Being an entrepreneur, going out on your own, trying shit out on your own, falling on your face with no safety net like you have in the corporate world or like being a nurse, it's pretty scary for people. And I think that it's a really good idea to like dip your toe into the entrepreneurial world. And multi-level marketing is a good way because like you have some support, right? The person that recruited you and the company they're going to like be working with is going to give you like some support. They're going to give you some guidance. Like for me, there's no fucking guidance for what I do. Like I go figure it out. And if I don't figure it out right, I get fucked. So I like multi-level marketing. It gives people like a taste to see if like if they're right for it. And I saw this kid on like Facebook that I went to college with, and he posted some like Facebook video about like the evils of multi-level marketing. And I was like, that disgusted me too, because I was like, oh, dude, you're so brave. He works for the fucking federal government. Dude, fuck you. You've never done anything like that. So who are you to judge people that like want to try something different, and get off the government teat? Like, you're pathetic. What a fucking loser. So I think it's like really good because it like helps people like get out of their comfort zone, like try something different. And people are like, oh, well, it costs. Yeah, it might cost like a couple $100. Like, it's not that big of a fucking deal. You're already paying like $100 a month for your iPhone and your phone, your cell phone. So I think it's good to like branch out. So I was like, yeah, like give it a try. If you like it, great. I know people have done multi-level marketing and they make like a couple $100,000 a year. I know one person that makes a couple $1 million a year because they got in at the beginning and the company was really good and it exploded they have like tons of people working under them. And oh, by the way, I also sell real estate. When you go to work for a real estate broker, it's a multi-level marketing company. Fucking use your head. So the next one is, I know someone and they want to start either, I guess not either, but or a company that is a limo and or a town car service. And they want to start it in Las Vegas. So, yeah, I think that's like pretty cool. I think you can make money doing that. The competition in Las Vegas is going to be real fierce because there's tons of cabs, there's tons of limos, there's tons of town cars. But if you can like make it a couple years and like build up your fleet and you do a good job and it's clean and you're on time and you're not gouging people and you have friendly drivers who are like respectful and conversational if you initiate the conversation with them, right? Because we've all taken cabs or town cars and the fucking like driver wants to know your life story. I had a driver in Las Vegas and he asked me and my wife what we do for a living. And I was like, oh, like we're like in construction. And my wife was like, well, we flip houses. And then he went on this like huge diatribe and he was trying to give us all this advice. It's like, dude, I don't take house flipping advice from a fucking town car driver. No offense, pal. But yeah, I think that's really cool. A town car service in Omaha, Nebraska? Absolutely not. So the market has to be right for it. I think you could also find a limo or town car business for sale and buy. That would be a better start than just starting it up yourself. But I like that. And people are going to be like, well, what about like Uber, blah, blah. Uber doesn't really like for town cars or like limos. Uber is mostly just for like cabs, I think. If I ever like want a town car, I'm not going to get on Uber. It's a different experience. Like if I want a town car, I'm not like cost sensitive like someone taking Uber. I'm not a fucking college student. So I like that. The next one is like pretty similar. It's starting a hotshot business. If you don't know what a hotshot business is, it's basically like a trucking business, but oh God, have I done this already? I don't think so. It's basically like a trucking business, but like for short distances. So the times that, so when I was in college, I worked for U-Haul for a while. And U-Haul, they obviously rent trucks, but they also like install hitches on like vehicles. Permanent towing hitches. So like if you need to tow a trailer and you have a truck, but it doesn't have a hitch, you can buy a hitch and have it installed there. And we used a hotshot company. And what they would do is if like we didn't have the right hitch in Lincoln and we needed it, this company, this hotshot trucking business, what they would do is they had trucks that like basically just ran between Omaha and Lincoln all day long. And they would transport like items, usually like obviously like business to business items. So like for us, they would transport hitches. For other companies, they might transport like industrial equipment or like industrial supplies. So they might like bring pretty much like anything you can think of. So they might bring like something like the railroad might use them to like bring, well, not the railroad, that doesn't make sense. But like, let's say like Duncan Aviation in Lincoln needed like some aviation part from a company by like Epley Airfield, and they needed it like that day. They would call this like hotshot business, and this business would bring it from Omaha to Lincoln or vice versa. So it's basically like a short, it could also be like just across town too. So it's basically just like a short route, like trucking business, but for things that are like bigger or like heavier than like a UPS or FedEx would do. So I think, and hotshot businesses are also like really popular in like oil fields. So I think like depending on like where you have to obviously like research the market a lot for like a hotshot business. Like I said, an oil field, like I knew some people that owned one in like an oil field in like East Texas. They would hotshot things from East Texas, like Houston, to like oil fields in Louisiana and like that part of the country. They were busy all the time because they're running around like drilling parts, specialty like contracting parts for oil fields, stuff like that. And they made like $4 or $5 million a year. And the drivers, even I knew like a kid who was a driver for him, and he made like $125,000 a year. So obviously, like you want to do a lot of research on the market, and obviously you're going to have some like capital investment because you need like a truck that can haul stuff. You need like like a DOT, everything like that. But I think it could potentially be good if you're like in the right market. I know that the place in like Omaha, that serves like Omaha, Lincoln, Des Moines, I know that they've like really expanded over the last like 5 years. So obviously there is a demand out there for it. So I like that one. Hopefully I haven't done that one before. Now that I'm like talking about it, it seems kind of familiar, but hopefully I haven't done that before. But hotshot business I like. And a lot of places too, like a hotshot business, they might just like do deliveries. So like I know a guy here in town that has a different one, and he just does like deliveries for like plumbing parts. I know other people that have them that just do like deliveries for like appliance, like retailers. So here in Omaha, we have a company called Nebraska Furniture Mart. It's also in Kansas City and Dallas. And the company that does all their deliveries is actually like not Nebraska Furniture Mart. It's its own business. It's Ford Van Lines, and that's basically all they do is they're just a hotshot service for Nebraska Furniture Mart. So anyway, I think that's good. Appreciate you guys joining me today, stopping by. Please follow me on Facebook. Please also subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. And I guess I've actually been lying to you. I actually don't think this podcast is on Apple Podcast. If I go to Apple Podcast on Google, it comes up. But according to Anchor FM, which is what I record this and distribute it on, I'm not on there. So I have to figure that out. So for all you Apple listeners, I apologize. I've been lying. But I'm definitely on Spotify. So you're probably listening on Spotify. Subscribe there. And like me on Facebook and follow me on Facebook. And also on Instagram. So anyway, appreciate you guys stopping by. Until next time, later.